I was reborn on the day my sister, Tilda Wright, and I had to pick our husbands. That was when I realized I could hear people's thoughts. I heard Tilda say, "This time, I'm gonna make sure I grab the best husband first." Then just like that, she rushed over and took the sweet guy I had married in my last life, while I ended up with the abusive man who used to beat her every day. I laughed to myself. Did she really think the guy I married before was some perfect gentleman? I was reborn on the very day Tilda Wright and I had to choose husbands. Across the dinner table sat two men, both about the same age. One was Mike Pearson, the older brother who was cold and distant. The other was Phil Pearson, the younger brother, but born out of wedlock. He seemed gentle and easygoing. "This time, I'm gonna make sure I grab the best husband first." A girl's voice echoed in my head. It was Tilda's voice. I glanced at her, but she hadn't actually spoken. Her eyes were locked on Phil. "I'm definitely gonna steal you away." Her voice rang in my head again. That was when it hit me. I hadn't just been reborn, I could hear people's thoughts too. And judging by what she said, Tilda had also been reborn. Otherwise, there was no way she'd be thinking like that. Sure enough, a second later, she walked straight over to Phil and sat beside him, all shy smiles. "Hi, I'm Tilda. I really like you," she said sweetly. My father spoke up beside me. "Sky, since Tilda has chosen Phil, you'll marry Mike." The moment he said that, pride flashed in Tilda's eyes. Inside, she thought, "This time, you can take the beating for me." In my past life, Tilda had married Mike. He was a strong businessman and was always buried in work. I also heard he was cold when it came to matters in bed. Tilda had tried many times to seduce him, but every time, she ended up bruised and thrown out of his room. Eventually, because she never had children, Mike's mother, Samantha Pearson, declared that she must be sick and kicked her out of the Pearsons' house. As for me, I married Phil. He didn't have much influence in the Pearsons, but he gave me food, clothes, and comfort. He took me shopping, ate with me, and went on dates with me, spoiling me completely. Everyone in the Pearsons knew how close we were. Later, Mike suddenly died from poisoning, and Phil inherited the family business. My status in the Pearsons skyrocketed overnight. Tilda was jealous. One day, while I was out shopping, she rammed her car into mine, dragging me with her into death. "Sure, Dad, I like Mike a lot anyway," I said with a smile, walking over to sit beside Mike. I had to admit, his presence was overwhelming. The moment I sat down, it felt as if a wave of icy air had surrounded me, choking off my words. No wonder Tilda had been beaten so badly in her last life. I tried to hear his thoughts, but there was nothing. He didn't think a single word. But when Phil smiled at Tilda, I caught his thoughts. Such a pretty little thing. A chill ran through my entire body. Without thinking, I grabbed Mike's hand. Even though he had a cold personality, his hand was surprisingly warm. He glanced down at me because of my sudden move. I quickly let go, and he stayed quiet. This man looked terrifying, but honestly, I'd rather stick with him than fall into Phil's poisonous trap. This time, I was determined to change my fate. I was going to make money, stand on my own, and never rely on anyone. Tilda and I had our weddings on the same day. It had been that way in our last life too. Back then, Mike hadn't shown up for the ceremony, but Phil came early. Everyone had said he was the more thoughtful husband. And this time, it was exactly the same. Phil showed up in a crisp white tux, rushing in to scoop Tilda into his arms. As they passed me, Tilda gave me a smug look. "Why didn't Mike come to pick you up?" I just smiled. "Don't worry about me. Focus on your own life." Her smile dropped, her face darkening. "Keep laughing. I'll see if you're still smiling once he starts hitting you." That was what she was thinking as she left with Phil, but it was way too soon for her to say that. There was no guarantee who would be the one laughing in the end. Mike didn't come to the wedding, just like last time, when he married my sister. People started gossiping about me and giving me pitying looks. Tilda looked even more thrilled, clinging to Phil and blurting out, "I love you, Phil." Then she pulled him into a kiss. I knew Tilda just wanted to see me embarrassed, but I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to storm out like she did in my last life, giving everyone in the room and the Pearsons something to gossip about. I remembered how everyone back then had said Tilda wasn't calm enough and wasn't fit to be the Pearsons' eldest daughter-in-law. After that, Samantha never treated her kindly, and Tilda suffered endlessly in the Pearson household. I took the microphone, smiled confidently at the guests, and said, "Mike had an important deal to handle today. When it's time for the toast, I'll be standing in for him. I hope you all don't mind." As soon as the words left my mouth, the whispers in the room stopped. From her seat at the head table, Samantha gave me a look of approval. The wealthy and successful Pearsons cared most about appearances and other people's opinions. In moments like this, a daughter-in-law had to stay calm and show she could carry herself like the lady of the house. Tilda noticed Samantha's approving look as well, and her eyes flashed with anger. Gross. "Just wait till the toast. I'll make sure you embarrass yourself." Honestly, being able to hear people's thoughts felt like a blessing. Having that secret ability made everything so much easier. When it was time for the toast, I lifted my gown and walked toward the stage with a steady pace. Tilda's eyes were glued to me as she silently counted 1, 2, 3. Right at the third beat, I stepped aside to fix my heel, and Tilda went crashing to the floor, breaking her glass and getting the champagne all over herself. "You okay?" Phil rushed to help her, but his thoughts betrayed him. What an idiot. All eyes in the room turned to watch, while Samantha's face darkened with anger. "How clumsy. You don't even act the way a Pearson should." I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," Tilda stammered. Her words sounded apologetic, but her eyes were burning with resentment. If it were me, I would have chosen to stay low and live quietly this time around. But Tilda couldn't stand to see me living well, so naturally I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. Because of Tilda's blunder, the wedding ended quickly. From start to finish, Samantha never gave Tilda a pleasant look. But when she looked at me, her eyes were warm with approval. She even took my hand and said, "I'll make sure Mike comes home tonight to keep you company and make it up to you." And sure enough, Mike really did come home that night. He walked in while loosening his tie, looking completely drained. I hurried over to grab his clothes for him. You must be exhausted today. He just gave me a glance and didn't respond. In my past life, the servants had whispered that Mike didn't even come home on his wedding night. Tilda had waited in the room all by herself, becoming the butt of everyone's jokes. When she tried to complain to Samantha, she only got scolded. Samantha told her it was her own fault that she couldn't win a man's heart. While Mike was showering, I set up the room. I laid out fresh sheets on the bed, poured him a drink, and tidied up the couch so I could sleep there. When he came out and saw the arrangement, a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. I quickly explained, "You can sleep on the bed. I'll take the couch." He narrowed his eyes at me. "Is this your way of playing hard to get?" He was draped in just a robe, his chest partly exposed, with water droplets still clinging to his skin. He looked, well, I couldn't deny that his body was impressive. I quickly averted my gaze. "No, I'm not playing hard to get. We don't really know each other, so sleeping in the same bed would just feel awkward for both of us. And, if possible, I'd like to make a deal with you." His brow lifted. "What kind of deal? Since this is basically a business marriage, why don't we just live our own lives privately and act like a couple in public? I married you so I could have stability and not worry about money. I don't expect love." When he heard this, the corner of his lips curved into a faint smile. "You're smart. I like that. Fine, I agree." The truth was, I wasn't capable of controlling a man's heart anyway. In the Pearsons, his attitude toward me would depend entirely on Samantha's attitude. I had no intention of ending up like Tilda in my past life, targeted and isolated by everyone. That wouldn't do me any good. And besides, he'd been abusive to her before. I had no desire to provoke him and end up beaten too. So my choice was simple: keep the peace, coexist, and focus on my own goals. This time around, I just wanted to earn money, build my own company, and succeed entirely on my own.